Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to a special review for the brand new Genesis box set BBC broadcast. Just came out on Friday, March 3rd of 2023. It is a 5 CD box set, full career overview. It's a very, very cool thing. We're going to dive into it here in just a bit. I'll do an unboxing and everything. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like. All those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this, with a review for the brand new Genesis box set BBC broadcast. So, as I mentioned, just came out on Friday, March 3rd of 2023. And this thing here is a full overview of the band. So I want to jump back real quick to give you a little bit of history about the group so it makes or sets up the context here for what we're going to talk about in this. The band itself formed in 1967, which makes this year, 2023, their 56-year anniversary. Pretty amazing for a band like this to be around that long. Now, throughout their career, they've only had 2 constant or consistent members in the lineup, Tony Banks on keyboards and Mike Rutherford on guitars. But they've also had 2 of the most iconic frontmen singing for them, Peter Gabriel from 1967 to 1975, and then Phil Collins took over. Now, he was with the band, though, from 1970 all the way up to 1996, and I always thought it was an interesting story that he goes from being the drummer in the group to being the lead vocalist and frontman of the group. He's also currently back with the group, but they haven't, the band itself really hasn't done anything for quite some time material-wise. And so while they started out as a progressive rock band, they would evolve into one of the biggest pop bands in the world, culminating in 1986 and running through 91, 92 in that sort of era, because they put out Invisible Touch in 1986, which would go on to sell 6 million copies in the US, and We Can't Dance in 1991 selling 4 million copies in the US. So 2 pretty big albums right there. Now, as I was mentioning, Phil Collins leaves in 1996, 97, and they bring in 1997 vocalist Ray Wilson to take over his place. And he was from a band called Stiltskin, which is a pretty interesting group, but I definitely prefer Ray's solo work that he did post leaving Genesis. But he recorded 1 album with them, Calling All Stations, in 1997. Unfortunately, things just didn't go over that well for the band. They got a lot of negative reviews on that and whatnot, and the band broke up thereafter. And so making Calling All Stations their final studio output for a full-length album that they did in 1997. They have not done anything since, and it's highly unlikely that they ever will. But that leads us to this, what they've put out here. And they've kind of moved into that phase of doing archival stuff. So we're getting the BBC sessions. As I mentioned, it is a 5 CD box set. There is a 3 LP highlight sub. So if you buy the LP version, you're not getting everything that's on the CD one. Score 1 for the CD fans. We're actually getting something bonus that isn't out there for everyone else in the physical format. Cool thing, this was curated by Tony Banks, so member of the group putting this together here. He's doing a lot for them in terms of their archive. 52 tracks on here, spanning from 1970 all the way up to 1998. 39 of these previously unreleased, making this box set really worthwhile in that regard. It does have live performances from all 3 frontmen. So you are getting the Peter Gabriel era, you are getting the Phil Collins era, you're even getting 2 tracks from Ray Wilson on here. This is featuring the first release of the band's 1980 Lyceum concert. It's including the entire Duke suite, which makes that a real standout performance. It's the first release of their 1987 Wembley show as well. Both of these previously had video format releases, but not standalone audio. They're getting the standalone audio treatment here. This is also the first live performances released of their last frontman, Ray Wilson, where I mentioned he did 2 songs. So we're getting Not About Us and The Dividing Line as the 2 songs. And I kind of like that they went with two of the songs that were not the biggest hits by them, or when I say hits, they didn't really have any hits with them, but not the big ones that came out as singles specifically. Now let's talk about quality of material on here. So the early 70s material is a bit raw, probably due to the nature of the recording itself. Maybe the band's still trying to find themselves a little bit. But as we move into the later era stuff that's in here, especially moving into 1978 and beyond, the stuff is really, really stellar, as you'd expect from that era. The band itself is tight, precise, but the thing is, they're still full of a lot of energy in there. I mean, they were always known for that, being a very tight and precise band, playing exactly what was the recorded material and so forth. So, you know, as I mentioned, lots of energy that's in here, more so from 78 to the 1980 shows, whereas the gloss of the 1987 and 1992 concerts that are within this thing, less, in my opinion, in terms of that great energy that they had from the late 70s. Now, as far as the way that this box set breaks down, this is where one of my complaints would come into this, because there's 5 CDs that are in here, but the material isn't segmented in a way that makes sense to me. Now, in terms of just a chronological order, I can understand where you've got the start of one show on one disc and it continuing on the next, but of course it makes it hard to be able to pull out a single disc and just swap it in. So CD number 2 starts with Nebworth 1978, but it starts after the 5 tracks, it moves into Lyceum 1980, but the Lyceum show can't entirely fit on there, so that continues on CD number 3. And CD number 3 wraps up with the Wembley 1987 show. And since all of those can't fit on there, CD 4 kicks off with that. So it's something that I don't like. I really would have rathered more CDs been in the package, where they had made 2 standalone CDs for the Lyceum, 2 standalone CDs for the 87 Wembley show. And as I said, if this was just a straight chronological thing, I would understand that, but it is not, because at the very end, CD 5, they've got Nebworth 1992, and that is coming after the 1998 performances with Ray Wilson. And I'm not really sure why they chose to pull that one out, except that that is a 62-minute disc, or show, all on one disc. And I understand they couldn't attack that on the end of CD 4, and it really kind of would have broken things up quite a bit. But it is what it is, and that's how they've chosen to do this. And if you're in it for the material and you're going to listen to all 5 discs, and it doesn't really make any difference, but I kind of would have liked to have been able to pull out one at a time and just throw it on and listen to it like standalone live recordings, live shows, that sort of a thing. So the thing with this is that there are a couple noticeable missing hits. Land of Confusion is not on here in particular, but that's not a bad thing, because it makes room for some other deeper cuts, and I tend to lean towards those. I've had enough fill of those big hits. Invisible Touch is on here, and then some of the other bigger ones from the Peter Gabriel era and so forth, are on here as well. But I do enjoy those deeper cuts that are on here, sort of getting a new light shined on them through this BBC release. And so let's go in and start taking a look at this. I love the front cover of this. I believe that is the Nebworth show there that they're doing. And here's the back side of it. Again, very cool. You got all of the tracks, and you can see the individual shows and how they start and break down and complete on other discs and whatnot. The spine of it, they are very nice. When it fits on your wall, it's going to look great. It is a lift top box that is a little tricky to get into. It doesn't quite want to slide out easily, so I'm a little unhappy with that, but we lift the top off and get this. We see the first thing there being the book, and we've got a nice tab that lifts it up and it comes out. Only complaint though is that this is a paperback book, not a hardcover book. Then we've got the CDs, and again, when you pull the tab, it'll lift up, and so we do get the 5 discs, and I will show you those right now. So some of these are interesting. Got a picture there of Peter Gabriel on the front and the track listing on the back side. Just individual paper sleeves in there. Okay. So, interesting stuff here. I think they could have done a tad bit more with the art, like on ones like this one here. and the one at the end. You know, I would have liked it if they had actually done the Genesis logos and Live at Nebworth and stuff like that. But again, these are more, you know, disc 1 through 5 as opposed to standalone live shows, so I kind of get that. Let's take a quick look at the book itself. It's nice that they've got, actually, here's the hype sticker from the front of it. I'll hold that up there if you want to pause on that and give that a read. So there is some nice written stuff in here for you guys to read. But my only complaint in that is that it doesn't really go in and do like a track by track and actually see, note the Nebworth picture and stuff that's here, whereas it doesn't really line up with the tracks, whereas the Nebworth performance comes starting on this one here. So it's a little out of sequence in terms of photos and the written text. They don't really worry about following that. They're down to 3 people and they're still showing pictures with Peter, Gabriel, and so forth in here. But as I said, you know, lots of good stuff to read, and it does go in and give you a lot of context and things like that. But I would have liked to track by track breakdown on each of the songs and stuff like that. Again, they're focusing on it more like a show. You know, they went and they did this BBC recording, and what were the thoughts and stuff behind that. So I do kind of understand it and so forth. I also would have liked if they had put a poster in here, a little bit of memorabilia, something. I kind of feel like the packaging itself is a bit light, very kind of minimal in terms of what they chose to do here. But there you go, that is the box set itself. And in terms of the material and what you're getting on it, the number of unreleased tracks, I do think it is a worthy box set. It's 5 CDs, it's $52 on Amazon right now. That breaks down to just a little bit more than $10 a disc. I think that also being worthwhile. This is not a crazy one. A lot of times 5 CD box sets are in the 150 plus range. This one is down in the $52 range. So maybe that is why everything is a little bit less in here without any of the extras and stuff of that nature, so that they didn't have to jack the cost up on it. And I totally get that. I think if you're a fan of Genesis, and or even if you're just someone starting out and you want to get a good overview of the band, I think this box set is really, really good. Me being someone who is not a big fan of live albums, I have to say, I really, really enjoy the quality of these live recordings, and definitely worth listening to and enjoying it in that regard. All right, everyone, hopefully you enjoyed this review of the brand new Genesis box set BBC broadcasts. You can certainly leave your comments. Let me know your thoughts about this if you're choosing to pick it up, and or if hopefully this review gave you your answer whether you want to pick it up or not. All right, everyone, take care, have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.